Welcome to Life It with DVD. I'm back again with another video, and today I wanted to talk about imposter syndrome and ways that you may be able to overcome it, what it is, and what it looks like. So, imposter syndrome is a psychological phenomenon where an individual doubts their own accomplishments and achievements. They may have a persistent fear around being exposed as a fraud or an imposter despite all evidence to the contrary. It's a feeling that you might not be good enough, talented enough, or knowledgeable in whatever position that you find yourself in, and this can occur in any area such as business, academics, other places, relationships, and ultimately it just includes feelings of self-doubt, anxiety, perfectionism, right? A fear of failure. And it's important to note that this is not a mental disorder, right? But it can have an impact on your mental health if not looked at and have some light shown around it, right? So my experience with this is I have definitely suffered from imposter syndrome in the past, mostly in my work environments and relationships. Um, and it's an interesting kind of phenomenon because it makes you think about it makes you think that you're not good enough despite having all sorts of experience. Maybe you have the degrees, right? I have degrees on the wall up here to try to remind myself of my accomplishments so that I don't fall into imposter syndrome. However, the question really becomes more paradoxical in my mind, where it's like a chicken or the egg thing, because how can you be knowledgeable about something if you learn it in a book, if you don't have the experience? How can you know how to do something if you've never really had the experience of doing it in the first place? And it really does become a chicken or the egg thing, in my opinion, because it's just what comes first, right? How can you get this job if you don't have experience doing that thing, right? And of course, there's ways around that, or other methods to try to solve that problem. But the thing is, you need experience to be knowledgeable in any sort of situation. So the more experience that you are able to get, just in general, not just in the field of expertise that you're trying to apply yourself to, but in anything potentially related to it that could have a cross-functional knowledge within problem solving for it. And ultimately, this experience is going to contribute to your feelings of, your own confidence within any sort of role that you're put in. So, in looking at this further, this can look like a student struggling to try to find a job despite being in a good academic program, having good grades. Maybe they just worry that they're not smart enough or they're good enough if they're not getting noticed by potential employers or other people that in the direction that they want to go. This can be this also can look like you as a new employee for a job where you've been hired for the job, you went through a strenuous process of interviewing for it, you got accepted, you feel great, but then your first day on the job or first few weeks or months on the job, maybe some of your employees are like, this person doesn't really know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. And then you could feel like a fraud or an imposter around being in that role. Maybe this is, a parent. A parent can feel like a imposter as well if they have, a son or daughter, and then they're trying to parent them and doing the best thing they can to raise the child with love and care. However, the child is upset constantly, and it makes it seem like the parent doesn't really know what they're doing. especially in maybe public places where it feels like maybe there's some shame around that. If your child is, behaving radically different than everybody else and is just kind of all over the place. So, that could be another example of feeling like an imposter parent as well. So, this can manifest in all sorts of ways. At least for me, it's happened in the workplace. I have had an employer tell me that I was not worth the money, which was really shocking to me, given that everybody else I was working with was saying I was doing a great job. So, that really made me question my own reality, right? It was shaking to the core of, like, who are you, and who is this person that's reflecting you back at you, right? Or, is this something that they are dealing with, right? And ultimately, that's really what it came to. However, the feeling of feeling like an imposter was still remained. So yeah, that definitely took a toll on my mental health and anxiety for a while I had to try to sort this out. But imposter syndrome is a very natural thing for a lot of different people. I feel like most people don't have a word around it, and this is me just trying to attempt to put more of a definition to it, because it's when you can define it, you can also evaluate it, right, and see if this is something that you might be struggling with. So to get into some other ways to look at this, you can see, like, I mean, with all things, I'm painting this in a pretty negative light, right? But are there any positive things to imposter syndrome? And on one hand, you know, feeling like an imposter can motivate you to work harder and strive for excellence. Because you feel like you have something to prove, and that can be a good situation sometimes for professional growth and a drive and ambition to achieve your goals. However, if you're kind of feeling like, I don't feel good enough or whatever, then this is where it really is going to affect you in a more negative way. So, at least for me, it's affected me in a negative way, and this is why I wanted to bring it to the light again. However, there are a few strategies that I've come up with that can help you get around and out of this feeling of imposter syndrome. So the first is you recognize the feelings. You got to define this, right? Acknowledge that you feel like an imposter and remind yourself that this is a normal thing, right? Other people go through it as well. Challenge these thoughts, right? Say, what have I done to put myself in a positive frame of light here? How did I get here in the first place? Because you got there somehow, and maybe you have degrees you need to be reminded of. Maybe you have experiences you need to remind yourself of. But it's important to bring your focus back to your successes and your achievements along the way. And this is definitely something that I need to do more of, is remind myself of my successes. Because I typically just focus on, hey, like, how can I grow? How can I learn more? And what can I do better? And I think there is benefit to that, but especially when trying to, communicate your expertise to other people, you need to remind yourself that, hey, yeah, you're here for a reason. And just an add-on, there might be something to this with intuitive people, more so, because the way I think about things is very intuitive. I connect pieces of information that I feel like other people don't necessarily make the connection to right away, and other people might struggle with intuitive people when they're more logic based. And I think of myself as being both logic based and intuitive, but when you as an intuitive have a hard time communicating how you know what you know, other people might question it, and they might try to make you feel like an imposter, or just not trust you. And like, this is an understandable thing. However, it's important to relax and try to, once again, bring it back to hey, how did you get here? Focusing on the positive, and moving on from this, reframe the narrative, right? See your experiences from a different perspective, focusing on what you don't know. Think about what you've learned and how you can use these experiences to grow. So you can also talk to somebody else about it. This might help you to just feel validated around your experience. And when you can feel validated around your experience, like, hey, this is okay, it happens to other people, you might feel better about it. And having that support from somebody else, whether it be family, friends, or some sort of professional, can absolutely be helpful as well. And then, of course, you got to take steps to challenge yourself, to get out of your comfort zone, right? When you feel like an imposter, really the only way is to push through. Get more experience, especially if this is a direction you want to go. All of your motivation and energy is heading this direction. Maybe it's just somebody else that's kind of bringing you down around it. Well, talk to them, right? Communicate with them. Don't back down from it. Communicate your experience, what you've done, and say, hey, maybe you don't know everything right now, but you want to learn, you're willing to learn, and let's work together for this common goal to whatever it is that you want. And then, of course, practice compassion for yourself as well. Understand that you're not going to be perfect around this. You make mistakes, and failure is part of the learning process. I mean, even in imposter syndrome, even if you cave like I have in the past and said, no, I'm not good enough at this thing, well, you learn from it, and you learn, wow, maybe it wasn't that I wasn't good enough, but it was that this other person had their own things going on, and instead of standing up to it or backing down from it, maybe you need to stand up or communicate differently your own desires, your own wants in a specific situation. So yeah, this is just a little background on imposter syndrome and how it's manifested in my life, how it can manifest, and then some of the ways to overcome it. Let me know what experiences you've had with imposter syndrome. What are you feeling right now where you feel like an imposter? I have a full stack development degree, and I feel like an imposter around it, right? Because not only do I know technical things decently, but I also value the psychological and human component to things. And really, that's where I have more energy towards. I want to try to help people achieve their goals. And, it starts up here, right? And here too. But you need to combine all of this stuff to try to have a holistic approach to how you're going to improve your life. It doesn't just start with technical acumen and knowledge, but at the same time, you need to psychologically know how you might be defeating yourself and what things and feelings that you might be having that are trying to set you back. And ultimately, these things probably aren't even you. They're probably programming from a long time ago. But it's important to know these things, define these things, and work through them. So, yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please like or subscribe. Let me know in the comments how imposter syndrome might be affecting you. And until tomorrow, I will talk to you later. Thanks.